Kane Smith here from canesmithcopywriter.com, and in today's video we're going to be looking at 5 books, five books that I believe all freelance copywriters should read. These are must-reads, and the inspiration for this video was reading some of Ben Settle's work, some of Ben Settle's books, and he speaks about repeatedly returning to resources that you found useful, whether they're books or courses, coaching programs, newsletters, any resource that you found really useful and you've learned some great lessons from. Like, read those again, watch them again, like go through them again. Like, one great book read 10 times is worth more than a bunch of average books all read in isolation. So it's a lesson that I've taken to heart, and instead of constantly seeking out the next marketing book, the next copywriting book, I'm kind of sticking to some tried and trues that I've really enjoyed and that I've got a lot out of. All 5 of the books on this list I've read multiple times. I encourage you to do the same. Go and read all 5 of these books. Go and read them multiple times and absorb the lessons. Use the repetition to your advantage. And these 5 book recommendations as well are going to be structured. They're not all just going to be books about the copywriting craft. In fact, only one of the books on this list is about the copywriting craft. The rest round out the skills that I believe good freelance copywriters should have. And you'll find out more about those in a moment. But before we go any further, you'll see a URL under this video in the description. If you hit that link and subscribe to my email list, you'll receive an email welcome series, an email primer, where I go through 5 mistakes, speaking of the number 5, that all freelance copywriters make, or that most freelance copywriters make anyway, that I've seen. These are mistakes that I myself have made personally. And when you receive these emails, I'll help you identify what these mistakes are so that you don't make them in your career. And I'll propose solutions, a different way of doing things as well. So check that out, hit that link in the description if you're interested in that. Back to the main program, and book number 1. Book number 1 is No BS Time Management for Entrepreneurs by Dan Kennedy. Now, Dan Kennedy is a legendary direct response marketer, sales and marketing legend. I'm sure you've heard of him. You may well have read some of his books or watched his videos already. And he's a controversial figure. There's no doubt about that. Hence the book's title, the No BS series. Dan Kennedy's known for being a very blunt guy, tells it like it is, pulls no punches, upsets people sometimes with the stuff that he says. But the guy's the real deal. He's been in this business for decades. He's made a ton of money. Dan Kennedy knows how to sell. And in No BS Time Management for Entrepreneurs, Dan Kennedy teaches some really important lessons about discipline, about punctuality, about filling your schedule, about protecting your time from others. These are all skills I believe copywriters should learn. Time management was a huge weakness of mine for a long time. It's still something that I continue to work on. I don't pretend to be a time management master, but little things like completely booking up my calendar, trying to make every single hour of my day accounted for, trying to avoid any white space in there that other people can steal, or I'll just kind of think, oh, I've got free time, and then you don't do anything productive and it becomes wasted time. And the counterintuitive idea that by constantly being disciplined and planning your day, you end up being more free anyway. You end up being more creative, more free, because everything you want doing is getting kind of knocked off the list, and you're not at a loose end wondering what to do, and things are stacking up behind you because you've got no discipline and no organization in your schedule. It all sounds very basic, but the way that Dan presents it and kind of hammers home the lessons, it's absolutely brilliant. And there's a famous chapter in the book about time vampires. You may have heard of it. It's a very illuminating chapter where Dan basically identifies several different types of time vampires you may have in your life, and how you can avoid and deal with these particular time vampires. And you'll probably read that chapter and find yourself furiously nodding your head in agreement, like, oh my God, yeah, there's been a person like this in my life. So you'll really relate to that chapter, but it's a very practical chapter. It gives you, excellent guidance on how to stop people taking control of your schedule. It's a book that helps you take control of your own schedule and practice self-discipline, which I think all of us could do with learning more of. Particularly copywriters, we tend to be like, wildcats doing our own thing. So bringing some discipline into the way we conduct ourselves and the way that we set up our work day and go about our business every day and live by these principles. I think it's like a foundational lesson any copywriter should learn. We are entrepreneurs. We're running copywriting businesses. We're service providers. So think like an entrepreneur. Read this book. It's like, that's why I put it number one on this list. It's like the foundation. And it's a book I'm constantly recommending to people. So number two on the list, book number two on the books that I believe all copywriters should read multiple times. And this one is a book on the craft of copywriting, on how to write better copy. And I believe it's the best book, it's certainly the best book I've come across on the topic. And it's Great Leads. And it's written by Michael Masterson, which is the pen name for the Agora legend, Mark Morgan Forde. And it's co-written by another Agora legend, John Forde, no relation to Mark. John Forde, I've had the privilege of meeting him in person twice. He's an absolute gentleman and he's an amazing copywriter, still active. And this book, so written by two of the greats, it is fantastic. So they basically explain that there are 6 different ways to begin a sales letter or an email or any sales piece. There are probably more, but they've identified the 6 main types, and they go through those types in detail and how they map out against Eugene Schwartz's 5 stages of awareness. So all you need to do is obviously do research on your prospects, understand where they are right now and what they believe. And then when you kind of map these 6 lead types against those 5 stages of awareness, it gives you a really good idea of how to kick off your sales letter and write a really good headline and lead, which, as any copywriter knows, is just like the most important part of it all. And it's the hardest part of it all. So like when you read this book and read it multiple times and look at all the examples and try to internalize all the lessons, it's probably the most practical and actionable copywriting book you can get your hands on. And like I said, it's written by 2 guys who are the real deal, who walk the walk and written tons of sales letters that have grossed hundreds of millions. So heartily recommend. It's my favorite book on the copywriting craft. So we've got book number 1, which teaches you time management and discipline and the foundations of running a business. Book number 2, which teaches you how to get good at your thing, copywriting skills, which leads us to book number 3. All right. And this is another Dan Kennedy book. It's the last one. The other 2 aren't. Book number 3 is Dan Kennedy. It's from his No BS series again. And this is No BS Price Strategy. Now, this book is so much more than numbers. It's about so much more than just the price of items. It's what's wrapped around the price of items, the value proposition, unique selling propositions, how to deliver a great experience, the difference between real value versus perceived value, how to, turn yourself into a category of one and make yourself irresistible to prospects. So this is a book that, again, I believe it's foundational in a sense, but copywriters in particular struggle with pricing for their own services, knowing what to charge and how to raise the rates, and really lacking confidence in that area, and lacking know-how, like how much should I be charging and why. And this is an area I was very weak in for a while. It's something I had to work on. I found that this book was a huge help. But it gives you an appreciation for business as a whole, like how a business is run. All businesses, especially the successful ones, are based on a successful price strategy. Why do people charge the way they do, in the volumes they do, to make a profit? Again, a lot of copywriters don't really understand this or read up on it. And this is a book about the economics of business. At a granular level. I'm not talking here about macroeconomics. I'm not talking about the stock market. I'm talking about, how the restaurant down the street, prices their menu and runs their business. Like Dan Kennedy goes into all the, the principles around this and explains them brilliantly. Again, it's in his really outspoken, entertaining style as well. So it's a really good read. Book number 4. And this is a book I imagine it's certainly the most recent, most modern book on this list. And it's probably the most popular. And of the 5 that I'm speaking to you now, this is the book that I imagine most people will have read. So there's a really good chance you've read this one. But it's very popular and it's sold a lot of copies for a very good reason, because it's an amazing book. And it's $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozi. So if you're not familiar with this book, like I said, this is a book that's kind of gone crazy in the last 12 months. It's sold tons of copies and lots of marketers and copywriters have read this book. But Alex Hormozi is the real deal. You know, he's a great direct response marketer. He's an entrepreneur. He's an investor. And he's a guy who owns a portfolio of companies now that are, you know, worth a crazy amount of money. And he teaches, in this book, he teaches what goes into crafting what he calls a grand slam offer. What traditionally in the direct response world has always been known as the irresistible offer. And he has almost like a formula for it. And he talks about it in a way that you've probably never heard before, the idea of a value equation. And, you know, like there's 4 different things that you can kind of toggle up and down. And if you dial this up, it'll make the product or service more valuable. And if you dial this down, it makes it less valuable. And it gives you absolute clarity and a framework for crafting an offer that has the potential to be completely irresistible to your market. There's also a chapter in there on price strategy as well. Obviously, it's very good. It's obviously not as fleshed out as Dan Kennedy's book. I don't recommend kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone and reading the chapter on $100 million off, the price strategy chapter in $100 million offers, and thinking that kind of replaces the Dan Kennedy book. I think in the book, Alex Hormozi actually tips his cap to Dan Kennedy. It might be on price stuff, or it could be on stuff to do with offers. But yeah, it's a great all-round book. And again, these are skills copywriters need to know. If you're launching a product with your client, helping them flesh out a better offer, making suggestions on what they could do to their pricing or their guarantee. You know, is there any bonuses, understanding bonuses and what needs to be added in and taken out? You know, scarcity and urgency and all this stuff. Alex goes into it in tons of detail. This is all stuff copywriters should know. If you're going into projects with clients wanting to be more than just a wordsmith, if you want to be a strategist, I really recommend this book. And final book on the list. Okay, I did promise you 5. This is number 5. And it's at the start, we're coming full circle now. At the start, I mentioned Mr. Ben Settle. So probably unsurprisingly, this book's written by him. I also mentioned that this list might be controversial. Yes, Dan Kennedy can be quite controversial, but there's no denying Ben Settle's very controversial. So this is a bit of an unusual choice, and it is not a copywriting or a marketing book at all, per se. It's written, of course, by a great copywriter. Ben Settle's an amazing copywriter, but it's not a book for copywriters. It's not about copywriting. The book is about how to kind of take back control of your life. If you've been too nice, or if you've been a pushover, or if you're not assertive enough, it's a book that helps you basically grow your balls back. Now, this may seem like it's pitched only at men, and Ben's audience do tend to be men, and I can understand why if you're a female copywriter watching this, you may be a bit put off from reading this book. But there are lessons in this book that everyone can learn, male and female. You can pluck the lessons out and apply them to your business. You don't have to be a man to read this book or appreciate this book. Now, in the title, it has an absolutely wicked title. It's very long. I can never remember it by heart, so I have it written down here so I remember it. It is Persuasion Secrets of the World's Most Charismatic Villains. And I'm sure there's just like the influence word in there. It might be Persuasion Secrets of the World's Most Charismatic and Influential Villains, or something like that. God, Google it. I can't remember it. None of these books, I don't have hard copies, so I can't hold them up here. All these books, I have them on Kindle. It's a very short read. You'll probably get through it in about 45 minutes to an hour. There's 10 chapters, and each chapter is like a commandment on how to live a more self-reliant and assertive life. And the book teaches you how to do it in an ethical way. It's not about being a mean or nasty person. It's not about being, you know, an unpleasant person who kind of bullies others or takes advantage of others or is unnecessarily, you know, arsehole-ish to others. But it's just about kind of a lot of like what Dan Kennedy teaches, the idea of autonomy. Don't allow yourself to be taken advantage of others. Protect yourself, protect your time, protect your family. Do what's right for you. By all means, help others, but help yourself first before you go around helping others. You know, copywriters who aren't charging enough for the services, who are letting clients pull them around, with ridiculous deadlines and rush jobs, clients giving them bad feedback, and the copywriter just kind of takes it. You know, this industry is rife with copywriters, probably by nature, maybe being introverts, struggling to really kind of come out of the shell and assert themselves in a business setting and running the business in a professional and assertive manner. So I really, honestly, it sounds like the title and the funny thing with that book, yeah, there is humor in it, and there's a very entertaining comic book villain theme running throughout the book. Ben Salt says you should live like a villain, as long as you're not killing people and nuking the world. But there's a serious message in there. I've read this book multiple times. I've read all 5 of these books multiple times, and I honestly do think it's a very useful book for copywriters. It certainly helped me in my life. If you are listening to this and you're thinking, yeah, I get kind of pushed around, and clients, I'm always too afraid to ask for the price that I believe I'm worth, or clients ask me to do stuff, and rather than say no and set boundaries, I always say yes, and then I feel resentful afterwards. Like, if that's you, read this book. Honestly, it will genuinely help you. So there you go. Those are the 5 books. We're going to run through them again. So book number 1 was Dan Kennedy, No BS, Time Management for Entrepreneurs. That gives you the foundational skill of managing your time and conducting yourself with discipline. Book number 2, Great Leads by Michael Masterson and John Forde. That's the best book I know of about the copywriting craft itself. So we've learned discipline, and we've learned copywriting skills. Now on to book number 3, Dan Kennedy again, the No BS Price Strategy. So we're understanding the economics of a business here. Book number 4, $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozi, how to build out an irresistible offer that your clients' customers will love, or if you're thinking of launching your own email list and selling your own products and services to your list, and it's going to help you as well as an offer owner. And finally, book number 5, let's try this again, The Persuasion Secrets of the World's Most Charismatic Villains by Ben Settle. It's a book on self-reliance, toughness, autonomy, how you can apply those principles both in business and in life. That's it. That rounds out the 5. Buy those books. Read those books multiple times, just as I have. If you only read 5 books this year, and I know that copywriters tend to read tons and tons of books and want to boast all about all the books we've read and take pictures of our bookshelves and put them on Instagram. Just, if there's only 5 books you read this year, read those 5. Read each one more than once. Let the repetition work its magic. Soak up all the lessons. Be a sponge. Ingrain this stuff into you. I guarantee you'll just become a better all-round copywriting business owner. Yes, you'll be a better copywriter, a better marketer, but you'll be more assertive. You'll run your business more professionally. You'll have a better grip of your own time and your own diary. You'll just kind of carry yourself a lot better once you've read these 5 books and you've been infused with the confidence that these books will give you. They've certainly done a hell of a lot for me. I credit a lot of the development of my business to these 5 books. I've created a whole YouTube video about it. I love these books so much. And I really, really recommend you buy these 5 and read these 5 multiple times. I think you'll get loads out of it. So that brings us to the end of this particular episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not already a subscriber. And don't forget, in that URL below this video, in the description, you'll find a link to that email primer series, the 5 mistakes that I see freelance copywriters making time and time again, mistakes that I made myself, and I'll show you how to avoid those mistakes and what to do instead. That brings us to the end. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.